Everyone, may I have your attention for a moment? Katherine's voice was surprisingly steady, carrying across the vast ballroom. The MC, startled, hurriedly brought her a wireless microphone. Katherine accepted it with composure and walked forward, standing beneath the towering memorial photographs of their parents displayed on a side altar. Her modest navy dress, though plain compared to the glittering gowns surrounding her, now seemed to carry the quiet dignity of a crown. Her bearing evoked George Miller, the high school teacher who had once commanded classrooms with calm authority. The ballroom, filled with whispers moments ago, fell into complete silence. I apologize for speaking during my sister Jessica's special day, Katherine began, her gaze sweeping across the glittering tables. But there is something that must be said, something our parents entrusted me with, and which can no longer remain hidden. A visible ripple passed through the guests. Jessica's smile faltered, her perfectly made-up face showing the first cracks of unease. Michael, the groom, glanced at her, confused, while his college mentor, the best man, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, as though sensing the weight of what was to come. Mr. Thompson, the family's longtime accountant, stepped forward with quiet gravity. His leather briefcase looked heavy, not with paper, but with history. He set it gently on the ceremonial table and withdrew a single-aged envelope. In elegant handwriting, faded but unmistakable, were the words, "To our beloved daughters." Gasps rose from the audience. Jessica's fingers twitched, gripping her wedding dress as though it could shield her. Katherine's voice softened but carried. 3 years ago, when our parents passed away so suddenly, the world assumed they left very little behind, but what they did leave was more precious than money. They left a wish, a promise, a final message for us. The envelope was opened, and the carefully folded letter inside was placed into Katherine's hands. The script was her father's. As she began to read, her voice trembled just slightly. Jessica and Katherine, our daughters, if you are reading this, we are no longer with you, but our love endures. Katherine, we entrust you with a duty to protect and support your sister as best as you can. Jessica, pursue your dream with courage. We leave behind not just our savings, but the values we lived by: honesty, love, and responsibility. These are your true inheritance. A hush blanketed the hall. Guests leaned forward, as if drawn into the past along with her words. Jessica's cheeks drained of color. What are you doing? This isn't the time for. But Katherine continued, raising her hand calmly. Mr. Thompson brought out another stack of documents, ledgers, contracts, and marketing strategies, each neatly bound and bearing the Miller family seal. These are the records of the financial support given to Sweet Jessica's, Katherine announced. The rent subsidies, the bakery equipment, the influencer campaigns. Every miracle success of the bakery was not sudden luck. It was carefully arranged with the inheritance left by our parents, and carried out, quietly, through me. Shocked murmurs swept through the influencers' tables. Some looked down at their phones, realizing the brand deals they had signed had come through Miller family connections, not Jessica's power alone. No, that's not true. Jessica's voice cracked. It was my talent, my hard work. Katherine's eyes softened, but her words held firm. Your talent was real. That was never in question. But the truth is, our parents never stopped supporting you, and neither did I. Every step, every opportunity, was made possible because of their love, and because of my promise. Jessica's trembling lips moved soundlessly. Tears began to well in her eyes, ruining her perfect bridal makeup. And then Mr. Thompson revealed the final item, a glossy photograph of a modern, glass-walled office overlooking Boston's skyline. At its center, seated at a desk, was Katherine herself, dressed in a fine suit, radiating authority. This, Mr. Thompson's voice rang with finality, is the CEO's office of Miller Media. The ballroom erupted in gasps. Miller Media, the globally renowned social media marketing company known as the Divine Hand in influencer circles. Whispers turned into shock. Katherine is the CEO? Jessica staggered back, nearly collapsing into her chair. Her eyes darted between her sister and the photograph. No, it can't be. You're just a plain high school graduate. Katherine stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. I made a promise to our parents, to support you without ever stealing your light. That is why I never revealed my identity, why I lived quietly in our old home, why I allowed you to believe everything was your own doing, because I wanted you to grow strong by your own strength, not by my shadow." Her words pierced the silence like a bell. Guests, who had mocked her place card earlier, now sat frozen in their seats, faces pale. Jessica collapsed fully now, falling onto her knees. Her pristine white dress spread around her like a wilted flower. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Big sister, why? Why would you do all this for me, even when her sobs choked the words, mocked you? Shamed you?" Katherine slowly bent down, gathering her sister in her arms. The pearl brooch at her collar glimmered softly as she whispered, "Because that was Mom and Dad's wish. Because you are my sister. And because I love you." The grand ballroom, with its chandeliers and luxury decor, transformed in that moment. No longer merely a wedding venue, it became the stage of truth, forgiveness, and a family's legacy finally revealed. At that moment, Katherine's voice was surprisingly steady, calm enough to ripple through the hall like the still surface of a pond before a storm. The MC, flustered by the sudden turn of events, hurried over and handed her a wireless microphone. Katherine accepted it with both hands, bowing slightly out of habit, her father's old lesson about respecting any platform, whether a classroom podium or a family gathering, echoing in her gestures. She turned toward the memorial photographs of their parents, which had been placed on a side table draped in white linen. The portraits seemed to glow faintly under the chandelier light. Katherine straightened her back, and for an instant, those watching could almost see George Miller's figure there, the stern yet kind high school teacher who had once commanded rows of restless teenagers with nothing more than a raised eyebrow and a chalk stick. "I apologize," Katherine began, her voice both soft and unwavering, "for interrupting a day meant for joy. This is my sister Jessica's wedding day, and I would never wish to overshadow it. Yet, I cannot stand silent anymore. I must share what our parents left behind, not just their will, but their message to us." The room, moments earlier alive with laughter and whispers, stilled to an uncanny silence. Even the clinking of glasses stopped. Michael, the groom, looked at her intently. His confusion was evident, but so was a quiet sense of foreboding. At his side, his best man, an older man with graying temples and the air of a mentor, sighed heavily, as if he had already glimpsed where this moment was heading. Mr. Thompson, who had been waiting discreetly near the back, stepped forward. His leather briefcase, worn and weathered from decades of service, clicked open. Inside lay a single envelope, yellowed with age, its paper fibers fragile, its edges frayed. On the front, in George Miller's meticulous cursive, were the words, "To our beloved daughters." Gasps fluttered through the venue. Katherine's fingers trembled slightly as she accepted the envelope, but when she spoke, her voice carried with quiet authority. 3 years ago, our parents left this world without warning. Father, an educator until his final breath, was preparing a lesson on integrity. Mother, who built a home filled with love, was writing notes on new recipes she wanted to try with Jessica. They left us suddenly, but even in those final hours, their thoughts were of us. Her eyes glistened as she glanced at Jessica, who sat rigid, clutching her bouquet too tightly. "And until the very end, their hearts were fixed on your future, Jessica." Mr. Thompson withdrew the next item, a thick, time-worn ledger. Across its cover, in her mother's softer, rounder script, were the words, "Sweet Jessica's financial support records." Attached with a faded ribbon was a smaller note, "Quietly support Jessica's dream." A wave of murmurs washed across the hall. "Jessica," Katherine said gently, but her words cut deep. "Did you know? The rent for your bakery, the ovens you use every morning, the marketing campaigns that brought customers through your doors, all of it was funded by our parents' savings. Every dollar, every sacrifice, came from the inheritance they entrusted to me to safeguard." Jessica's lips parted soundlessly, the color drained from her cheeks. "And that is not all." From the briefcase, another stack emerged, contracts, marketing blueprints, expense reports stamped with seals of legitimacy, your rising fame, your followers, your features in glossy magazines. It wasn't chance. It wasn't luck. It was a carefully woven net. Influencers were contracted through my network. Media opportunities arranged through father's former students. Even the recipes that earned your accolades, they had mother's handwriting in their bones. Every piece of your success was built upon the foundation they left. The influencers present shifted uneasily. Many of them realized, perhaps for the first time, that their organic endorsements had been orchestrated all along. The glitz of their staged posts seemed hollow in the grand ballroom's golden light. Katherine's gaze softened, though her voice held. All of it, Jessica, was never meant to deceive you. It was to protect you, to give you the chance to step into the world and be seen for what you truly are: talented, full of heart, capable of touching lives through your bread. Jessica staggered back a step, nearly tripping on her gown. She collapsed into the nearest chair, her tears spilling freely, her pride unraveling in full view of her guests. But why?" she stammered. "Why hide all this from me? Why didn't you ever tell me?" The chandelier's crystals refracted Katherine's figure like countless mirrors, casting her in a quiet, luminous dignity. "Because of a promise." Her next words pierced the air like a bell. A photograph was revealed, a glossy print of a sleek high-rise office. The caption at the bottom read, "Miller Media Headquarters." At the center of the image sat a woman at a wide desk, dressed in a tailored suit, her expression composed and commanding. The bride gasped audibly. That's you?" "Yes," Katherine said, her tone even. "I am the CEO of Miller Media." The hall broke into hushed exclamations. Miller Media was legendary, whispered about in influencer circles as the invisible hand guiding social trends. Few had ever known who sat at its helm. Now the revelation shattered every assumption. "I founded the company the year after our parents died," Katherine explained. "I had already promised them I would safeguard your dreams. But I also carried Father's words with me, that education takes many forms. I saw that media could teach, could shape, could inspire. So I built Miller Media, starting from a rented office the size of a closet, brick by brick, campaign by campaign. We grew, and yet..." Her voice cracked slightly, though she steadied herself with a deep breath. "And yet, I never left our home. I never let go of Mother's brooch, Father's books, or the garden they planted. Because I wanted to remain your sister first." On the venue's large screens, Miller Media's global achievements flashed by: educational programs in underdeveloped countries, disaster relief campaigns, cultural preservation projects. Yet Katherine's expression never changed. She didn't bask in it, she simply stood tall. "Jessica, sweet Jessica's was never meant to be a puppet show. It was always meant to be your stage, and you filled it with your soul, your bread, your smile. Your presence, it healed people in ways even I could never calculate." Jessica sank fully to her knees now, her dress pooling around her like fallen petals. "Big sister, I've been so cruel. I thought you were nothing but a shadow in our home, clinging to the past, but you were carrying me, all along." Katherine knelt beside her, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "Do you remember," she whispered, "when I skipped a grade, and you cried, saying you could never catch up? I told you then, and I'll tell you again, you were never behind. You just had a different gift." Jessica's sobs grew louder, raw, unguarded. The hall that had once mocked Katherine now sat frozen in reverent silence. Even the influencers, so quick to laugh before, lowered their phones. "Mom and Dad's last wish," Katherine said, her voice trembling but clear, "was for us to live true to ourselves, and to support each other." The two sisters embraced before the memorial photographs, their parents' smiles watching over them. In that moment, the grandeur of the ballroom seemed to fade. Only the sisters remained, the children who once sat together at their mother's kitchen table, the daughters who once held their father's hands as he walked them to school. The Miller family's story was no longer one of loss. It had become a story of renewal.